In June of 1982, Rebecca Lynn Williams, a 19-year-old mother of three, was raped and stabbed over 30 times in her apartment in Culpeper, Virginia. The only description she had of her attacker was he was a lone black man. After almost a year, Earl Washington, a 22-year-old black man with an IQ of 69, similar to the IQ of a 10-year-old, was arrested in the nearby county of Fauquier for an alleged burglary and malicious wounding. After 2 entire days of questioning, police claimed that he had confessed to a total of 5 different crimes, including the murder of Rebecca Lynn Williams. Out of the 5 confessions, 4 were dismissed due to the inconsistencies of the testimonies and the victim's inability to identify Washington. Surprisingly, though, investigators had accepted the 5th confession to the murder and rape of Rebecca Lynn Williams, regardless of the 4 previous false confessions. Washington was unable to tell investigators the race of the victim, the address of the apartment that he had supposedly raped and murdered her in, and had claimed that Miss Williams was a short woman when she was actually 5'8". He also claimed that he had stabbed her only 2 or 3 times when the victim was actually shown to have sustained 38 stab wounds, and that nobody else was in the apartment when it was known that Miss Williams' 2 young children were in the apartment the day of the crime. Alongside that, Washington picked out the scene of the crime after being taken there 3 times in a single afternoon by the police, who had to direct him to which apartment had been Williams'. Only on the 4th attempt at a proper confession, which was actually rehearsed, did the authorities accept Washington's statement and have it recorded. It was later reported in a psychological analysis of Washington that in order to compensate for his disability, Washington would politely defer to any authority figure with whom he came into contact. So, whenever a police officer would ask Washington a leading question in order to obtain a confession from him, he would always comply and only ever offered affirmative responses in order to gain their approval. This is then supported in the TED Talk Why Teens Confess to Crimes They Didn't Commit, in which the speaker, Lindsay Malloy, states that juveniles or those with intellectual disabilities, in the case that she was talking about in the case that's being referenced here, are more suggestible or susceptible to social influence like the intense pressure accusations and suggestions coming from authority figures in interrogations. A forensic analyst conducted a serology test on evidence from the scene and detected a rare plasma protein that Washington did not possess. Afterwards, an amended forensic report was prepared, with no additional testing being conducted, saying that testing for the rare protein was inconclusive. The defense offered no argument to the jury concerning the death sentence. Jurors returned with their death verdict on January 20th, 1984. 9 days before Washington was set to be executed, another inmate had brought his story to Marie Deans, a woman who had for years been assisting capital prisoners voluntarily, and a lawyer at the Virginia prison. The two together had achieved a stay on Washington's execution, and in October of 1993, DNA test results revealed that Washington was excluded as a contributor of the Seminole stain. But because of the Virginia law stating that new evidence must be introduced in 21 days, he was not exonerated and had instead received a new sentence of life imprisonment. Washington remained in prison for another 6 years, being in prison for a total of 16 years, before his counsel persuaded the governor to seek additional DNA testing. In October 2000, the governor granted Washington a pardon for the capital murder conviction. He was released in February 2001 to parole supervision. 6 years after Washington walked out of prison, the then governor, Y. Kane, issued an absolute pardon, acknowledging that Washington was wrongfully convicted of murder and rape. Earlier in the year, Kenneth Tinsley, who was already serving life in prison for a rape in 1984, pleaded guilty to Rebecca Lynn Williams' rape and murder. Washington is now married and is a maintenance worker in Virginia Beach. His case also inspired a Virginia law in 2001 allowing inmates who claim innocence to seek DNA testing at any time. Were the case to have happened today, additional serology testing would have been done instead of simply saying that it was inconclusive.